things are unborn and there's no death of that, right? If nothing is born, things are not born, there's no end to it. If there's no starting, there's no end to it. But when we don't know that reality, when we believe that there is a birth, and we're not just imagining that there's a birth, we truly believe in it, then there is the death. And that's why it's important to have the thought of impermanence, meditation on impermanence. So while we are in this long-term dream, we are in the dream, not only sleeping, right? We're not awakened. Awakened would be enlightened. So we're sleeping because we have this sense of single independent self or personal identity known as I that owns everything, including mind and body, feelings and everything. Not only sleeping, but we're dreaming. So we have a lot of experience. And we're going through lots of fear, lots of sufferings, a lot of difficulties. Even though, in the ultimate sense, just like the Heart Sutra teaches, they don't exist. For the awakened person, whatever you're dreaming is just a dream. You're going through all the sufferings, but there's no real, reason to have the suffering, because those things you see doesn't exist. But the one who is dreaming doesn't know that. It's so real. So we have to have some temporary measures, temporary help. So while we don't understand the ultimate truth, while we still believe that there's a birth, we have to also work with our death. And one of the attitude that we have is just not talk about it. When it comes, it comes. But until then, why should we talk about that right now? But that's not the solution, because it will be too late at the time. Not only too late, we don't know actually when it's coming. So it could be late at any moment. Many teachings pointed out that it is hard to tell whether tomorrow or the death will be earlier. So instead of preparing for tomorrow, it is more meaningful, it is wiser to think about the death. As we now know that if we are attached, if we have attachment towards this life, then it's not a real spiritual practice, right? That's the first attachment to be abandoned, attachment to this worldly affairs and life. Second is attachment to the samsara. To overcome that attachment, the first attachment, the most important thing is the thought of it, the practice and meditation on impermanence. And it comes from the very beginning of the practice. It's there from the beginning, from the very beginning of the 5 paths. The path of accumulation, you accumulate merits, but if you do meditation, then one of the most important meditation there is the mindfulness meditation, and mindfulness of the changes, the impermanence. So maybe we can try that. We can try to do a meditation right now. So you always pay attention to your posture first. Support your back, so you're on your own, you're not leaning on anything else. Make sure that your shoulders are not tense, it's very relaxed. Straight, basically, the body should be straight, balanced, and relaxed. And if there's too many distractions, lots of thoughts, then you may close your eyes. Now always start your meditation with some good motivations. Then slowly focus on your breath. Notice that you're exhaling and inhaling. Notice the changes taking place in your breath. With that breath, there are physical movements in your body. Your chest, your belly expands and contracts. Not only that there is a movement and changes, but the same thing never comes back. Every breath is different. Every breath happens at a different time. Feel your heartbeat. Notice all the tiny bits of feelings that you feel with your legs, with your hips, nostrils. Pay attention to the changes taking place in our body at the cellular level. All this is taking place, constantly changing. Nothing is static. Nothing is permanent. Now slowly advise oneself, saying that my death is certain. And again observe on our breath. And again say, my death is certain. And notice that as we breathe in and out, we are exhausting, we are subtracting the length of the lifespan. So it's getting shorter. The death is coming closer by breath by breath. Doesn't matter we are conscious about it or we're not conscious about it. That's what's happening, even during the sleep. If you feel very tense, try to relax. Once again, observe all the changes that are taking place in your body, in your mind. All the composite things are impermanence, as Buddha said. Our mind and body are impermanent. They're moving and changing all the time. They're coming together and dissipating. There's nothing that can stop the death. When the consciousness departs from the body, when they're separated, which is the death, there's nothing, no physical things that can help. No friends, no family members, no physicians, no wealth, no power, no fame can help. Nothing that we have earned with all our efforts. None of the hard-earned money, property, or anything will go with us. Only the true Dharma that's dawned in our mind goes with us, travels with us. When we practice this, we can expand further. We can think of people around us, people that we know of. We can think of our friends and friends, or friends, family, and just think of people, one after the other. Everybody pass away. And then it's not only the death, it's the bigger problem. One of the problems is the suffering of death. Or suffering, maybe more accurate, suffering of dying process. This is an important practice because it fundamentally changes your view of the world, the life. Your attachment to worldly gains and loss will be much lesser, much weaker, which is a very important part for the practice.
While not knowing what negative karma was created before, while not knowing what negative karma is already there. How can we avoid and purify past negativities in order to avoid the 3 lower realms?
There's so many details. There's not one answer for all this. The details is, for example, it depends on, we wouldn't know, but there's a detail such as, is that karma that you're talking about is about to ripen already. So between the cause, between the karma, creation of karma, and the ripening of that, the fruit of the karma, there's always some timeline. It could be short, it could be very long, it could be many lives after, or it could be even within one life. So there's many different lengths. And where are we now, the present moment? Are we closer to the result of that previous karma? Or are we very, if you are immediate next to it, maybe you probably will know what was the karma, right? If you are closer to the seed, the karma action itself, it's much easier to do something with that. If you're closer to the result, it is a lot more difficult and sometimes maybe almost impossible, to purify. That's a big thing. Just think of this. If you plant a tree, you want to plant a tree, you plant a very small tree. You just remove from a pot and now put it in the ground. It's very easy to remove it and destroy it, right? But if it's been there 20 years, it's so difficult to do anything with it. It's maybe 40 feet high, 100 feet high tree. But we don't know where we are in this. And there's, of course, many karmas, not just one person has one karma. There's so many, countless karmas. And some are maybe very close to ripen, some are far away from ripening. So what we do is, even if we don't know, it doesn't matter. We create good karmas as an antidote towards all the negative karmas. And we just do the dedication to purify them. You make the wish to purify. And there's so-called 4 powers to purify. Power of the reliance, the object. So that's why spiritual practitioners particularly take vow to do good things or do good things, good karma, in front of some important object of reverence, such as the important Buddha's place. And then power of repentance. So, that kind of knowledge is also so important, to know that that was a mistake. It's a negative karma, it's not good. So recognizing that is very important. So you're not proud of having that, doing that. So that's a no, so you're rejecting it. And then that will, when you have that, you will, in your mind, you will naturally say that, I don't want to do the same thing again. If you truly regret about that, then you will naturally say, I don't want that again. So that's the other power, the 3rd power. And doing something opposite to those things. So there's doing positive things. That's the 4th power, power of antidotes. Power of the object, special object, power of repentance, power of promise, power of antidotes.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Mm-hmm.
So when we're helping others, should we, in addition to good motivation to help others, should we also have wisdom? And if we have a good motivation, but what we do is not beneficial to others, does this still increase merit?
So this is a question about motivation versus consequences. So we are moral ethic, the Dharma teachings are very much based on the moral ethic understanding. So if you have good motivation, Yes, it's important to have wisdom, important to have knowledge. But even with the knowledge and understanding, you still can make mistake with a good heart. Or it may not be mistake, just not able to help for various reasons. So that's on one side. On the other side is basically I'm trying to say bad motivations, but somehow turn out to have a good result, right? From spiritual point of view, of course the first one is the right one. Motivation is the one that decides everything. So if you have a good motivation, then it's a good thing. It's a good karma. But it's important to have the wisdom with it. Wisdom, patience, all are important with that.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned the concept of impermanence, and then at the very end you said something about suffering at death. And you can suffer more or less at death if you have attachments, but I wasn't sure I just wanted more explanation there.
Right. We should not avoid thinking about the death and the sufferings of the death, first of all. We should, as a spiritual practitioners, we should not push it away, because that's not something that we can avoid actually. So we should know more about it. It's nothing bad or anything. It's a part of the life. It's a part of us. So we should be master of it. We should know more about it. To do that, we need to go through this and we need to think about it, the sufferings. We ourselves haven't experienced it, so we learn from others' suffering, others' impermanence of death. So that's why we go through the family members and friends of family members and their family members and their friends. You can look at like 20 years ago, a picture of 20 years ago and see how many are still there. 40 years ago picture if you have. And almost all of them are gone probably. And also generation, I said that it has nothing to do with the age or illness. But generally speaking, generation by generation, the older you are, you saw a lot more people die. So think about the sufferings. What we get from that is that our attachment to this life becomes lesser. Attachment, that's the main purpose of thinking about the death. There are many other benefits, but this is the main one for the spiritual practitioner. Our attachment becomes less. And the fight that we have every day for things, between husband and wife, or between maybe co-workers, or between friends, or family members, it becomes something that you used to think is so important. Suddenly you find that it's not that important. When we know the death, and then how these material things cannot help, but anything we created with our mind right now, the good karma or bad karma, since it is stored in our alaya with our mind, it goes with you. But the rest doesn't go with you. So our purpose of thinking all these things is to lessen the attachment. And when you have lesser attachment, then it fundamentally changes your understanding of life and your quality of practice.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Yeah.
How do you help a person who will die soon? How do you help them go to a good realm?
I always think that it's whatever you can do to minimize the pain and suffering. It's very helpful. Do things that person spiritually like to do. do things that are very familiar to the person. I think that would be helpful.
Thank you, Rinpoche.